There are dollars in the data, and I'm gonna give you
the
three
data
quick
is
examples.
worth more than what you're probably selling in your store.
You talk about Google, right? Google hires.
What is Google?
Data scientists.
Wait, what the
it's
is
not
Google?
really a search
Right,
engine.
what does Google sell? Like
Google
they have no
sells
products on the shelf. You walk in and be like,
They
I'll
get
take this
the
Google thing.
dollars from
I'll take
the
3.
data.
Put it in your pocket and walk out the store.
Right.
You're buying information from them. They've indexed the world.
And welcome back to the latest episode of Commerce and Chill. I am Jessica Johnson Cope.
I'm Waleed.
Hi, Waleed.
Hi, Jessica.
What's good?
Life.
What's happened since the last time we were together here in Commerce and Chill land?
What has it been, a week now?
Yes.
A lot happens in a week here.
Hey, catch the people up.
Let's see. Met up with Uncle Mike.
Shout out to Uncle Mike. Everybody needs an Uncle Mike in their life.
Yeah, Uncle Mike.
You probably heard me refer to Uncle Mike. He is our favorite octogenarian.
He said that yesterday. He's like,
he was like,
I'm
what?
an octogenarian. Like, what the is that?
No, he knew what it was.
He knew what it was, but he's like, why the am I being there?
He's like, don't call me that. So we're going to call him Uncle Mike. That's Mike Blumenfeld. For those who've watched previous episodes, he's one of our business coaches. We met him back in 2011, and somehow or another, we stuck together all these years. He still continues to give us wisdom from his perspective as a retired executive, as a business advisor to startups, as just a great, well-rounded New Yorker. And you know, he's
so. What's the greatest thing about hanging out and talking to Uncle Mike?
He just gave me a fresh perspective because I was telling him about one of the other people that we rocks with, Mary Head. Shout out to Mary Head, who probably doesn't watch Commerce and Chill, but if somebody pulled it up on her phone, she would watch it.
But she did leak the photos from our wedding on Facebook.
Yes.
Right during the ceremony,
Yes.
during the reception.
So just
cocktail hour,
as a FYI, we had a surprise wedding. We did not tell most of our guests that we were getting married. We invited them to a nice dinner under false pretenses. They thought we were getting.
It's like 62
They thought we were
people.
getting honored by the city. And when they showed up, they walked in and they saw, like, they're like, the city has this nice decor. And then they saw
At this hotel, like what? What's going on here?
And then when we came in, they were like, this isn't an award, this is a wedding. So it was like on the low. Nobody really knew. And so we got married and had a cocktail hour on the rooftop of the reception. And by the time of the hotel, and by the time we came down to the reception, we were getting texts on our respective phones like, you got married?
Like what?
Like
what?
what?
How do you know this?
About? They were like, no.
It's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook. And I was like, because
like,
we're on Facebook, but we're not on Facebook like that.
Who posted this on Facebook?
They were
Come
like,
to find out.
They're like,
Mary
who's
Head.
Mary Head? So Mary Head is a beautiful sorority sister of mine. She lives across the street on the block where Waleed grew up, and actually lives across the street from Waleed's mom.
Yeah. Mary Head is like what?
90 plus.
Right. So back then she was like, is in like early 80s.
Like, yeah. She was
Give or
80.
take.
She was 80.
Nobody really knows when her birthday is, so we guess.
No, we know what day her birthday is. We just don't know what year.
So she's like 80 plus. She's got this big Samsung phone. And the thing is huge.
Like as big as my head.
Whatever the biggest one is, the phone, she had that at that time. And she's like, look. And she's like posting photos. And I'm just like, oh.
The funny part is like, because she used to, my friend Blaine and I, we would go with her, we would go to sorority events together. And so if we were driving, we offered to take her home, pick her up, take her to get something to eat, carry her bags. You know, she really hazed us.
Okay.
I mean, not hazed us,
okay.
but made
so we kind of got
of,
off topic.
Make the most of the young people. But she would say, okay.
Favorite thing about Uncle Mike.
Take this picture. And then she said, okay, and I put it on Facebook for me. We're like,
right.
what?
So she must have, I don't know if she did or she had somebody do it at the cocktail hour. But yeah, she totally leaked it. But still love it to death.
So my two favorite things about having dinner with Uncle Mike last night. Now, the first thing is he was like, give me a hug. Can I get a hug? And like, it just reminds me that even though we've been cooped up because of COVID, the human touch is still important. Regardless of age, regardless of demographic. And so if you get the chance, if there's somebody that you haven't seen and you come in close contact with them, even if you need to mask up, show them some love. That's the first thing. Show some love. And then the second thing, he's like, you know, I got friends, right? If you have anybody you can introduce me to, I'm like, and I was like, wait, what?
He's like, I just want to go hang out.
He's like, yeah, I just want to hang out and talk. And so again, it reminds me of the human touch. So even if it's in business or if it's personal, there are people who are used to having interaction that now don't have interaction. And just a simple conversation will work wonders for them. And he's like, everybody slowed down because of COVID. I thought I'd be able to turn it back on. He's like, I can't turn it on just as fast. I was like, you know what? I'm not 80 and I can't turn it on just as fast. So make sure that you reach out to somebody you know, love, and trust. If you get the chance, touch them, reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place with a hug. And then have a nice conversation. But that's not why we're here today. Today, we want to talk to you about making data-driven decisions in business. Why are you looking like that?
I'm listening to you.
Okay.
What? Making data-driven decisions. Go.
Right. So Waleed talked about some of the progress that we've made in both businesses over the past few days, weeks. And it sounds like it's all cool in the gang. It's all great. It's success. But success in many cases doesn't come without some level of risk. So as you start your business, as you grow your business, as you think of your business idea, we want you to find a balance or the right mixture of risk and protection by using data to inform how you make business decisions.
Yep.
What does that mean? Yep.
I mean, yeah, you could use it, but I'm like, well, go ahead. I don't want to start rambling.
So for you, Cope, when it comes to making a business decision at the soapbox, would you say that you lean more towards making quantitative based decisions or making qualitative based decisions about how to operate and grow the soapbox?
First of all, what the is that? Like, I don't know. Like, I look at data. So you want to go to
you look at data, but then
you want to go to Webster for the definition of those two?
Sure. So I like
quantitative versus quantitative. What is it you said?
Quantitative versus qualitative.
I'm going to pronounce it wrong.
No, you said it right.
I just got a hit on eBay.
I'll say this. I looked up the
Sold
etymology
3 in a row. I'm on fire.
Of the word data. So I don't know. Many people don't realize data is actually the plural of the word datum. So if somebody's saying, I want to analyze data, just make sure that's more than one. If you have one piece, it's datum. You have multiple pieces of information, that's data.
Okay.
It comes from the Latin word. And actually, it's a derivation of the Latin word for do.
Right. See?
Dare.
Yeah. So I was going to
I mean, not to do, to give.
Oh, well, I'm fine with doing.
But to give.
So you asked me, how do I use, you said quantitative or was it qualitative?
Qualitative versus quantitative. Let me just drop this real quick. In the classical use, data was originally a fact given as a basis for calculation and mathematical problems. And from 1897, it was used as numerical facts collected for future reference. So even centuries ago, when they were using the word data to discuss different aspects, it was suggesting forward thinking and it was suggesting math and calculations. So as you make calculations about your business, it makes sense that you involve some level of data. So you're saying quantitative versus qualitative.
Oh, I thought you were going to say what the definition of those are.
So quantitative is just like a count. So something that you can count, whereas qualitative is something that you can measure based on qualities that may not be a count.
Yeah. So for all you folks out there in Commerce and Chill who are like me, I don't know whatever. So how do we use data at JSB and at the Soapbox? Mm-hmm. We use it on a lot of different things. Like a quick one off the top of my head is when it comes to hiring. Mm-hmm. Like it's simple as looking at the data to show where people are applying for jobs with us the most. Mm-hmm. Like where are they coming from? Are they coming from ZipRecruiter? Are they coming from Craigslist or Simply Hired or Monster? Mm-hmm. And then figuring out if the majority of people coming from there, what are they doing on that platform or in that platform that we can do even more to enhance that? So on one platform that I can't disclose yet, we're working on a huge project with the media team and our talent management team and building out a platform inside of that platform to represent us with a lot of details about who we are, what it's like to be on our team, et cetera, et cetera. So if that platform is driving majority of the traffic, looking at the data that shows that these people are coming from that platform, what else can we do more on that platform to stimulate that audience even more? So if the majority are coming there, let's do more to get more of them to convert. Let's get even more people on that platform to apply,
right,
and target the people who are the best fit here.
right.
So it's one way we use data at JSB. We kind of use it that way at the box, but the hiring needs at the box aren't as great as they are at JSB because it's two different businesses.
It's just a different in terms of volume of
right. Well, one is
employees.
a service business, but one is a service/product business. So at the box, yes, we do provide a service, but that service is not based on people. It's not based on manpower to a certain extent. But here at JSB, it's about each person out in the field is the product,
right,
performing a service, which in turn results in billable hours for us, which returns more revenue.
okay,
So we have to deploy more people to increase the revenue to a certain extent on one aspect of the business model, because we also have other products and services at JSB that don't require someone to physically be there and be billed per hour for the client.
okay. So before we go any further, I want to drop 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tips.
Are you Dave Chappelle now?
No, I wish I could be Dave Chappelle, but I'm not.
What, just for this episode? Because we damn sure have more subscribers and more views than.
It depends who you're talking to. I know some people that be like, that Dave Chappelle. That's not my opinion.
To each his own.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to consider when you're trying to connect the dots, or how you could use data or incorporate some type of mathematical approach to business thinking and making business decisions. Now, there are going to be some of you out there who say, math was not my thing. Can I just bake cake?
It wasn't my thing,
cookies?
but just keep it simple.
Can I just, get the contract?
You got to measure the cookie dough. So you're still using math, even though you're using the scale. It's still math. It's just a simple form of math.
Right.
But go ahead.
And you're still using information. Regardless of what you're doing, you're using information in some kind of way. So these are 5 quick tips to help you incorporate data and mathematical approach to business thinking. Number 1, setting and prioritizing objectives. So when you're thinking about how you run your business, one of your objectives in many cases is going to be your sales and your revenue goals, as well as your profitability goals. Those are all data points. There's information that you're going to use to calculate that information. So you might as well set those goals up front so you know that what you're working toward. And as you're getting sales, as you're moving product, as you're billing for hours, you can mark where you've come as opposed to where you would like to end up. Number 2, collecting relevant data. So whether it's looking at the number of applicants you get through your applicant tracking system, whether or not it's looking at the number of new clients that you have every week or every month, or looking at how much you put out in expenses. There are so many data sets that can be integral to how you run your business and how you make data decisions or informed decisions. Figure out what information is most important and then start collecting the relevant data. Number 3, drawing conclusions from the data. Waleed talked about how we look at the different sources of candidates when we're recruiting to determine which platforms we want to spend more money, time, and resources on for future recruiting needs. And so you can do the same, drawing conclusions from your data. Like if you bake cookies, if you set the oven on a certain temperature,
Hit me up if you do.
How long does it take your cookies to brown? If you set it at a different temperature, how long does it take? If you add a certain amount of sugar, what kind of results do you get as opposed to adding more or less? So draw conclusions, but you first have to have your goals and then have the relative data. Number 4, creating a strategy. So I don't know if it's your clients or if it's your end users or even people internally on your team or potentially your advisors, right? So it might be your accountants, it might be your attorneys. They're usually going to ask you for information. And so it's great to set up a data strategy to know what to track. As an example, one of our newest clients works in financial services. And part of the contract negotiation phase required us to outline deliverables with respect to reports. So they're expecting certain reports about our performance. So we know in advance what we need to be tracking, what we need to alert the client to. And so we can monitor our progress during the course of the contract. And as we have our quarterly meetings, as we have our annual meetings, we can give the client updates and we can make adjustments before we have to be accountable to the clients. And then number 5, measuring success and repeating. So once you have an idea of what you're following, once you have your goals, once you have your relevant data, once you start to draw conclusions, measure how close you got to those goals, wash, rinse, repeat. Do it all over again. It becomes a cycle. And when you know the data that's important to you, you may hear people talk about KPIs, key performance indicators. Those are just certain types of data, right? That's the key data that's important to you in your business operation. Identify the KPIs and measure them so you can gauge how successful you are compared to what you said you wanted to do. Those are 5 quick tips on how to use data, how to use mathematical thinking for success in your business.
Okay, well, thanks for coming to this episode of Commerce and Chill. I'm Waleed. She gave the 5 quick tips. I got shit else to say. Okay.
Oh, no. Talk some more about different ways that data appears. No, stay.
You said different ways what?
Data appears.
Like, wait, appears in the business? Like how we're looking at it? I mean, it's like there's so many ways. Like I just had a conversation, shout out to Ariana. We were having a conversation the other day. And we were talking about client feedback.
Right.
Like we were talking about customer service.
Right.
And, Ariana, those you don't know, she has 2 great laundromats, lingerie. Super fancy. Like I got to hold my pinky up when I say that name. But we were just having this conversation. And we were talking about customer service. And then we were also talking about getting information from your client base. So you talk about, data and like, first of all, how do you get this data points or et cetera, whatever the terms. How about just doing some simple stuff in your business, like conducting a survey? Like I'm willing to bet that a good portion of small businesses aren't capturing data from the clients as they come in. It sounds like we hear the big companies, they do this, they surveys and all this and the customer demographics. And sometimes like I'm overwhelmed and I just had this conversation. We were talking about Facebook and Instagram ads and Google's. And we were talking to someone who their job is at a tech company is marketing. And they said like, it's very overwhelming. It can be confusing. It's very complicated. Like you're looking at all this stuff in Facebook, Instagram, Google, and you're just like, which option do I choose? Like what audience, et cetera, et cetera. It's tough, but start with what you already have. You have people coming in your door, spending their money.
Right.
Ask them questions. Like it doesn't have to be some long drawn out, like 30 question survey. It could be like 4 or 5 questions. Like you figure a way to send it to them digitally. Is it in an email? Is it through text? Hint, hint. Is it through text? And like they respond and they give you some feedback on whatever these top 5 things you need to know. And then you take that data and implement it. You'd be surprised, what you could get just from doing a simple survey. But the other thing is, how about you just have a conversation with people as they come in? Like people come into your business. If you're there, and we talked about the data of the number of people who have a small business and that they're there themselves interacting because they have a very small employee population. So that they're there a lot of times. And we won't go into that whole part. We talked about the mindset and building a system and being in the business and working on it versus working in the business. That's another discussion. Have those conversations with them. Like if you step off to the side, maybe like, why do you, how was the last order? What, you've been coming here, Jack, for 10 years. Can I ask you a question?
Well, first of all, if you're keeping data on your customers and clients, you would know that Jack's been coming for 10 years. You wouldn't have to know it off the top of your dome.
Well, clearly we do, because I said Jack's been coming here for 10 years, right? So it's, you take Jack to the side and be like, listen, Jack, like you've been coming here for 10 years. Can I ask you a personal question? Why have you been a client of ours for 10 years? What keeps you coming back? And then genuinely sit there and listen to Jack. Don't think of the next question to ask Jack. Genuinely be interested in what Jack has to say and encourage Jack to say more. And then, maybe it becomes an offline discussion with Jack. and to get deeper into it and have those conversations. Like I'm willing to, I don't know what the stats are, but small business, I see quite a few with POS systems these days. Square,
and
Clover,
POS, if you don't know, is for point of sale. So like you have a cash register.
It's a fancy cash register, okay? You use a tablet or iPad or some kind of Android, whatever. Like majority of small business have some type of POS system. And if you don't, you should really be thinking about that right now. Right. And you'll be like, oh, Waleed, the cost, the credit cost. Listen, I don't give a find one that fits for you and it's cheap. What the most important thing I look at with a point of sales, and we're not even going to talk about the inventory management and keeping everything in order. You're able to establish what people are buying and go back and look at, like, let's talk about people using Square, right? We've used Square for a number of years. Shout out to Jack and the team.
Hey, Jack.
And they have a robust reporting section in the back. And you go in, what are the peak times a day? Mm-hmm. What are people buying the most? Mm-hmm. When does this product sell the most? On Saturdays and this, that. Customers use their credit and debit card. It stores that information, not their credit card information unless they choose to, but it stores that data because it's built up in a database to know that card with the last 4 digits was swiped or dipped this day at this time, and these were the products that were brought. And sometime in some of these POS, because people are using them in different places and they put in their phone number, their information so they can get the marketing in the alerts, you can see the person's name every time they make a purchase and then understand what patterns and trends are. So like use what we already have in like the simplest form to make some more data-driven decisions in the business.
There are dollars in the data. And I'm going to give you 3
the data
quick
is
examples.
Worth more than what you're probably selling in your store.
You talk about Google, right? Google hires
What is Google?
Data scientists.
Wait, what the
it's
is
not
Google?
really a search engine.
What does Google sell? Like
Google
they have no products on the shelf. You walk in and be like, I'll take this Google thing. I'll take 3,
data.
Put it in your pocket and walk out the store.
Right.
You're buying information from them. They've indexed the world. So if somebody can build a gajillion dollar, and I have no idea what they're worth, but I'm going with a gajillion. If they can build a gajillion dollar business, and granted they sell ads and all this other shit, so don't be blowing me up in the comments and DM me saying, well, Waleed, I'm talking about the core thing they started with was indexing the internet. They took data from all over the world and figured out how could they get it to you faster. Like you ever notice when you Google something, look at the results. It tells you how fast it gave you those results. I bet you most people don't even look at that. It'd be like 0.0000 something, like 8 seconds. I'll be like, what the fuck? Like that's fast as and they just queried all that data for you in that amount of time from all over the internet.
Right.
The data is super important. If there are businesses worth billions of dollars and they're just moving data or displaying data or showing you how to compile data to be more efficient, to be more strategic, don't you think you should be using the data in your business to the best of your ability to say, like if you've got a cookie shop, you should have some POS sitting on the counter, and you should be looking at the data and say, what are the cookies that sell the most on the weekends? And on the weekends, you should go hog ass wild making that cookie and promoting the shit out of it. How many of you ever got those texts from Square that somebody uses the Square POS or the Shopify POS in their store, and then they're like, oh, today's our anniversary, or today is your 15th purchase, you get $10 off your next thing. Like, why the aren't we using that more in small businesses? The tools are there. We're paying for them. And I know you're going to be like, well, Lead, I'm so busy. I'm involved in it. Been there, done that. I get it. You got to carve the time out. There is something.
Take advantage of the tools.
There is something you're doing that is not giving you a good ROI in your business that you need to put on the curb. And then you need to look at something else that says, how do I target more people? And I'm super guilty of it. All right. We got 6,000 plus people in the database. I sent out an email the other weekend to people who are in a particular area that we haven't been servicing, sent out 1,800 emails. Sent it out. I don't know, maybe got 50 unsubscribes. It.
But what's 50 out of 1,800?
It happens, right? 50 people unsubscribe, okay. But some people don't want to send it because they're like, oh, I don't want to send it. I don't want to feel like I'm spamming people or people are not going to make an order. But you know what? I thought that. I was like, if I email them, they're going to unsubscribe. What they're going to do is, guess what? They weren't doing before I emailed them anyway. So I emailed 1,800 people, 50 people unsubscribed. And that weekend, a bunch of orders started coming in from areas we've never gotten orders before. Why? Because I took the data we had and used it. You've got it. use it, do something with it. And it might totally bomb for you. But you know what? It bombed and you figured out. Don't do that again. How are you using the data you already have in your small business, right?
There's dollars
wait a minute.
in your data.
Are you asking your customers / clients how they find you? At the Soapbox, when you download our app or when you create an account, there is one question when you create the account and people are like, Waleed, it's a lot of friction. You probably losing people in the process. You're absolutely probably right. But guess what? When they complete their application to create their account, one of the questions is, how did you find us? And we list Yelp, Google, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, and they choose one. Do you know how valuable it is when we look at that and we overwhelmingly know every 6,000 plus people have created an account at the Soapbox. We know exactly how they found us. So then we can sit there and say, okay, we should create data for this platform. And I'm not going to speak on it right now because we're working on some things in the background. Our audio engineer / content creator / data analyst, Espinoza's over here smiling.
What's up, SV?
Because of that, we started doing something on the internet. And it's driving more traffic. And I get alerts every day and I share with the team. And it's like, oh, congratulations. This thing got this many views or this many interactions. And we're able to look at that data because one of the things on that platform allows you to compare yourself to competitors or people in your industry. And we can see that what we're doing puts us above what the average business like ours does, or the competitors, by a huge factor. And then these small results have turned into medium-sized results. And now we're going to change. We just had a meeting the other day talking about why are we focusing on all this stuff? What are the things that we're seeing? What is it, the 80-20-80 rule or the 80-20 rule? 80% of your stuff comes from 20% of something. So now we're like, where's 80% coming from? So it's coming from this platform, it's coming from this thing we do. And we're like, F everything else. We're shutting that down, or we're just going to put it on some type of like little like drip to say, put something there so people know we're still alive. Like, why are we trying to post on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, Yik Yak, Ticky Tack Tack, and like you're spreading yourself too thin? If 80% of your comes from IG, for example, why not put majority of your focus on that? Why try to keep doing every single freaking thing?
Don't try to do everything. Just real quick, I want to give a shout out to my sister, Sarah, Inya, Lawal, and Ascend Foundation. She recently invited me to participate in the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs in Nigeria, which she sponsored in partnership with the U.S. State Department and the U.S. Consulate in Nigeria. I was pleased to have the opportunity to speak to over 175 women in Nigeria who are starting their businesses, who are living their dreams.
What are you, international
making
now? Things
happen. We're getting focused. man.
International.
See where the love is coming from. We're going to give that love back. Don't forget, you have your own data. Make the most of it. Know also when it comes, I'm a big advocate working with your elected officials in the government piece. Government makes decisions about small businesses based on the data. Understand what that data is. When you get the chance to participate in surveys, when you get the chance to participate in meetings, be involved so that you're counted and your voice is heard, so that you'll be a part of the data set that they consider as they make decisions.